Welcome to 16 Minutes with Divine Ndhlukula. Today we are focusing on digital safety and online abuse and what families can do right now. I'm joined with Edith Utete of Digital Wellness Africa. Edith, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
From your work, Edith, what forms of online abuse are showing up? Mostly harassment, impersonation, coercion, coerced deaths, non-consensual sharing, and what early signs do families normally miss?
Thank you. For most instances, now because of the AI revolution, there's a lot of AI generated material, which we call deepfakes. So those ones have given people the ability to impersonate another person. And it could actually look like you, sound like you, but saying things that are not characteristic of you. So the other thing that happens also when we look at the family situation is that young people are being cyberbullied. Cyberbullying is one of the top forms of violence that's going on, or the main form of harm to young people. When it comes to families, what they're missing is where a child is being cyberbullied, they may take it as a child being rebellious, the child not communicating and just being a teenager. And on the other hand, the child who is the cyberbully also, they could miss that. And we've had cases where a parent is told that this is what your child did, and they will say, not my child. Now, what that does, it then perpetrates the abuse that is happening to the victim of the cyberbullying. Then a third thing that happens is what is called doxing. Doxing is where I take your private information and I put it on a public forum. For example, there was a celebrity or a well-known figure who had something that she posted and then which was attacked by the trolls of the internet. And someone then took her personal phone number, her address, and everything and put on the internet. And she was receiving death threats in the end because now people had easy access to her.
Oh, yeah. Which habits, like passwords, privacy reviews, device sharing rules, deliver the biggest protection? And what should people do or stop doing in reducing the exposure?
Well, my most famous advice to parents especially is that we have all these technologies and we've got all these ways of protecting our children, which are technical. But the greatest thing that we can do as families is to have a relationship of trust, a relationship where your child feels comfortable telling you what is happening to them. And even when they make a mistake, for example, if they share their password with a friend and then it goes sideways, they can still feel free to come and admit that they made a mistake. Or if they share their intimate images with a boyfriend or a girlfriend and then that is used against them, they can also still come and tell the parent. Then on the technical side of it, it is important to have strong passwords, definitely. You can't have the same password for every platform that you're on. And as I say this, I will admit I am one of those people who would struggle with remembering too many passwords for too many platforms. But you'll find that when you are not using one password, you're also strengthening your digital assets. Another thing that you can do occasionally as families is to do an audit of all the platforms that you're on. Sometimes we sign up for applications and then we use them once or twice and then we forget about it. But that app is accessing private information about you. So it is important to then make sure that every once in a while, you're checking to see inactive apps. You're also checking to see what the applications are accessing from you. Sometimes we sign on to one thing. For example, when we all joined WhatsApp, there were particular frameworks that we were operating in. But over time, you'll find that things have changed on WhatsApp. Their terms and conditions have changed, but we hardly look at that as people in general. And so I would encourage the families to just make sure that we go through that process together. It also helps when it's done as a family.
So, if someone or people out there watching faces online abuse, which happens all the time, what should they do practically?
Okay, so practically, when an offense occurs, we assume usually it's in the form of, it's in written form or it's a voice note, and in very few cases, maybe a video. When that happens, you take screenshots, you save the conversation, you also do not respond. It is important to not engage, because the more you engage, the more you are, perpetuating the issue. Sharing with loved ones and so forth is a good idea, but not to share with everyone. Because what then sometimes happens, as we have seen, is when people are triggered by something, now they want to go to social media about it. So if I tell you as my sister, you might feel that it's within your rights to protect me as your sister by letting the world know that this is what has happened. But it can also then, make the abuse extend further than it actually should. Then the next thing that would be important, if there are any threats on your personal life or liberty, then you have to report to the police or to get legal counsel. Or for the young people, advise they can go to places like Childline or to social workers who deal with abuse of children, as well as us, of course, at Digital Wellness Africa.
Okay, so what would be the best way? You talked about police. What would be the best way to collect evidence without having to amplify the harm? And when is it the best time to involve, say, family, the school? I think you've already talked to some of that. The employers, the church, or the police, if you said. And how would we have to collect the evidence so that
Okay,
there's
so
credibility?
sometimes when something happens online, it can be a once-off thing. And that doesn't mean you have to be reporting every incident. So it's important to have discernment to see that this is happening more than once, it's happening often, or even when it happens once, the nature of the threat is really great. For example, where someone has your personal details and they're saying, I'm coming to your house to kill you or to deal with you in a threatening manner. If it's an issue of a company or a workplace situation where you are seeing that there is a possibility of reputational harm to the organization, then that's the time to involve law enforcement and your legal people. And then when it comes to a school situation, again, it would be good to look at the severity of the threat, how often it has happened, and how targeted it is. Because some of the threats are just generalized and they're not specific to a person, but within the school context, you can also find that it's very specific. It is a real threat, and a person is unable to even function. Sometimes school children can't go to school. They are not doing well in their schoolwork because of that looming threat. At that point, then, that's when we can engage law enforcement. And then as a school child, once a threat occurs, it is important to also just share with the school administration as well as parents. In the workplace, supervisors, but if it's a supervisor who is the source of the threat, then you use the procedures that are within the organization to report. Outside that, then you would go to the police or to seek legal assistance.
So Edith, what are your 3 actions for families starting today regarding uh, this subject?
I would start by saying, parents, we have to parent differently. It is important to not just give children a gadget because of peer pressure, because everyone is giving their children a gadget. Because once you give them that gadget, you're exposing them to the whole world, to cyber criminals, to stalkers, to extortionists, and even to themselves and their peers. So the important thing is to delay as much as possible giving children devices. The second thing is to make sure that we talk about these situations, that this is what could happen. And what I found helpful for me personally and in the work that we do is that when something happens, maybe to a famous person that we all know, we then show the young people that, see, this is what could happen, and this is what we're trying to protect you from. And then the other thing that I talked about, doing that audit as a family, what applications are we using, who has access to our information, but also to us, and then do that exercise together where you then go through the steps of protecting yourself, creating those passwords which are strong and which are not identical across platforms, and then to also share the resources of and the steps of what to do when you face online harm or violations, and to always keep that door open, especially for young people, because if we are judgmental that the harm has happened because of something that they might have done, then they will never open up to us.
So in my understanding from what Edith has been telling us, we are supposed to have what she termed relation of trust with our children. And secondly, I also learned that let's not engage perpetrators. Where possible, I think let's report as we see it fit. I've had incidences where there's been a lot of impersonation on my character for people that are asking people to join certain business or whatever project things that are scams. So reporting would be the first thing that what is key to stop it. You have discernment, as Edith said. Let's also ensure that we are not pressured to give gadgets to our kids at a certain age. At that age, I cannot say I'm not competent to say that, but I think let's delay as much as possible. And if obviously we have to give our kids the gadgets because it's now necessary because we are living in the technology era, we then need to have specific times for screen time so that children can also develop in other ways, not necessarily just from the screen. Edith, thank you. If someone you love needs that support, where do you get help? Contacts are on the screen and in the descriptions. Choose one step today. Share it with a friend, with your family, with your neighbor, and especially with relations, in particular our young children, particularly the ones that we term as the screen generation. Let's keep each other safe.